my dad says I have no patience, que más ando, and I don't know, así estoy yo. Hola, 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 from sunny South Texas, Vianney Rodriguez here, your resident Tex-Mex queen, and today, guys, we are baking up a beautiful Tres Leches cake. I want to bring in some personal notes, and this Blackberry Pecan Tres Leches is a nod to two of my favorite people, my mother and my husband, Roy. So, a Tres Leches cake is simply cake soaked in 3 milks. Traditionally, you would use sweetened condensed milk, evaporated milk, and heavy cream. But today we're gonna jazz it up, putting fresh blackberries over it and pecans. So you're gonna need flour, a little bit of sugar, baking powder, salt. We're gonna need eggs. So this Tres Leches is not a cake that you walk into the kitchen and you're gonna whip up in 10-15 minutes. This is one of those days where you're alone in the kitchen. You want that quality time to really perfect a recipe. Take your time to enjoy it and savor the moments of having quiet, alone me time with the sweetest results. So when I started Sweet Life Bake, my blog, I really became enamored with baking all of these traditional Mexican desserts that my mommy and my abuelita used to make. But I wanted to give them my own personal twist, and that's when I came up with different toppings just to jazz it up a little bit, but to also tie my Mexican roots with my Texas roots. So I'm bringing in the blackberries for the topping because growing up, my mother grew wild blackberries in her backyard. So we had blackberry jam, we had blackberries over ice cream, we had blackberry syrup, we had blackberries in our salad. So I feel like blackberries are like ingrained in my heart. So I knew I wanted to top a Tres Leches with them. And then my beloved pecan. I love pecans. They're just so delicious. But my husband is born and raised in Hondo, Texas. So they grow a lot of pecans there. And he's just always been, I love a pecan pie, I love a pecan bar. Every time he requests a dessert, it has to have pecans in it. So I've become very aware of what he enjoys. So I thought a little crunch, a little savory bit with the pecans over the blackberries is a nice mix. So yeah, let's get started. Let's start baking. I'm gonna walk you through. Don't be intimidated, it's very easy. I'm gonna be here to guide you, and at the end, we're gonna celebrate with the sweetest Tres Leches. So we're gonna begin with the base of our Tres Leches. So to a bowl, I'm gonna combine flour, a touch of baking powder, and some salt. And I'm gonna whisk it up because I want to make sure there's no little lumps of any of the flour in there. So we're gonna give it a quick whisk, and then we'll move on to the next step. Next, we're gonna separate 5 eggs. We're gonna add our egg whites to one bowl, our egg yolks to another. So I just like to give it a quick crack, release the egg yolk in my palm of my hand, separate the egg yolk from the white, and then I just add it to another bowl. Once again, crack, remove as much of the egg white as I can, and then to the palm of my hand. We want our eggs at room temperature. That way it mixes evenly with our flour mixture. Last one, I think. Yep, go. Egg white on one bowl. Then with the palm again, and into our bowl. Here we go, we have our 5 eggs. Let me rinse my hands off and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so now we're gonna beat our egg whites until they're light and fluffy for about 2 to 3 minutes on high speed. Okay, you can see that my egg whites are light and fluffy. Now I'm gonna slowly add 1/4 cup of sugar, and I'm gonna crank it up on high speed until they become nice and firm. I'm gonna remove this, set this aside, and we're gonna move on to the next step. So next we're gonna beat our egg yolks with the remaining sugar until they're light and creamy. Every once in a while you're beating your eggs, you want to come in with a spatula and run your spatula around the mixer so you grab all that sugar that is in the corner. We want to make sure we grab all that sugar and beat it into our egg yolks. Our egg yolks are light and creamy. We're going to reduce the speed on the mixer to low, and we're going to incorporate our milk and our vanilla. So I've added the milk and the vanilla, and we're just gonna mix it until just combined. We don't wanna overmix this step. Our egg yolks are light and creamy, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our dry ingredients and we're gonna fold them into our egg yolks. What we wanna do is we wanna add the flour, and we wanna go around the bowl with our spatula and fold in. We wanna do this as gently as possible because we don't want our eggs to deflate and lose all that volume we created in the mixer. I'm gonna go in with our flour, and I'm just gonna go around, and I'm gonna fold in. And we're gonna do this very gently until all the flour is incorporated. I know this seems like a lot of extra steps, but each step combined produces a light and airy Tres Leches cake, which is exactly what you want. So when you poke all the holes in it and there's those little air bubbles, that's exactly where all the Tres Leches goodness goes into. I can't tell you how many Tres Leches I've made in the kitchen alone, and they've been an absolute disaster. Like, some pasteles came out as hard as rocks, others like overfilled the pan. So it took me a while to really learn these techniques. It also took me a while to learn to slow down, because I'm so used to cooking that you're just like fast movements, chopping, mixing, stirring. When it comes to baking, you really have to scale it down, and I am the worst. My dad says I have no patience, que más ando, and I don't know, así estoy yo, and but what I've learned to do is I grab my music, crank on some Selena, some George Michael, light a few candles, kick everyone out of the house, and I start to bake. And slowly over the years, I've gotten a little more patient. Yeah, I've gotten a lot more patient, and I feel like my desserts have become sweeter. So slow it down every once in a while. It never hurts. So I've got our flour incorporated into our egg yolks. So now I'm gonna bring over the egg whites, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna fold in our egg whites into our egg mixture, and we're gonna do it nice and gently because these egg whites are super light and fluffy. Okay, here's our egg whites. Once again, around the bowl and over, around the bowl and over, and you'll see it will slowly start to incorporate into the egg mixture. And this is what produces a light and fluffy pastel. You can barely see the eggs. I'm folding in the egg whites. We have our flour, we have our baking powder, our sugar. So now we're gonna prepare our pan. This is a 9x13 baking dish. You can use, I prefer to use the metal. I find sometimes the glass overbakes because it becomes a little hotter, and on the bottom, my Tres Leches will come out a little browner. I want an even bake, so I like to use the metal. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray it with some nonstick cooking spray because we don't want anything to stick. So we're gonna come in with our spray. We're gonna give it a generous coat, the sides also. Now we're gonna add our batter to the pan. Here we go. And look how light and fluffy this is. It's the perfect consistency to catch all those air bubbles when it's baking. And then we're gonna fill those bubbles up with Tres Leches. I wanna scrape every last part of this batter out of my bowl. Then I'm going to rotate the pan, and I'm gonna come in just with the top of my spatula, and I'm gently gonna coax it to the other side. We don't wanna deflate the bubbles. You can see the bubbles right there, and that's that extra time we took to create the fluffy egg yolks and the fluffy egg whites. Make it even, little tap with my spoon. And then we're gonna go into a preheated 350-degree oven for about 20 to 25 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted comes out clean. So now we're gonna make the topping for the Tres Leches using fresh blackberries, a little bit of sugar, and some lime juice. We're gonna combine the three elements, which is the fruit, the sweetness, and the acid. We're gonna place them in a bowl, and we're gonna let them sit there for a while, turning occasionally. This will begin to macerate the berries, which means the berries will break down, they will release their juices and become slightly mushy, but they will be sweeter. They got that pop from the lime juice, and then we're gonna just spoon them over our Tres Leches cake. To a bowl, we're gonna add fresh blackberries. And if you're in an area where you cannot find fresh blackberries, frozen works fine. Just thaw them before. Gonna come in with just a touch of sugar. And then I'm gonna come in with our lime juice, our citrus. But first, I want a lot of flavor, okay? So I'm gonna remove a little bit of the lime zest from our lime, and that'll give us that hint of fresh lime flavor. So I'm just gonna run my lime over the zester. Every once in a while, I will tap it on the bowl to remove all that lime zest. We only want to zest the green part. We don't want the white pith, because that's sour. Okay, so we have all the lime zest in the bowl. Now we're gonna come in with some lime juice. I'm gonna slice a lime. We're just gonna add the juice over the berries. And we wanna stir everything together. That way everything starts combining. We start the maceration process, and the sugar and the lime juice will break down the berries and create this beautiful blackberry syrup. We're gonna set this aside for about 10 minutes to let it do its thing, but every few minutes, come in and give it a quick stir, because we want all those juices to release. For our next step, we're gonna make the whipped topping that goes on our Tres Leches. To our mixer, we're gonna add heavy cream, and we're gonna add a touch of vanilla extract. We're gonna whip our heavy cream and our vanilla on high until it becomes light and fluffy, and then I'm gonna slowly, gradually start adding our confectionery sugar. Okay, so our heavy cream, our vanilla, and our confectionery sugar have been whisking together, and they're light and fluffy, and now we're gonna top our Tres Leches with this creamy topping. Now we're gonna allow the cake to rest for 10 minutes. We're gonna mix our 3 leches, then we're gonna come back and we're gonna add it to our cake. So now I'm gonna walk you through how to make the Tres Leches part of this recipe. So Tres Leches simply means 3 milks. For this recipe, I'm gonna use sweetened condensed milk, I'm gonna use evaporated milk, and I'm gonna use some heavy cream. So we're gonna add them to the bowl, we're gonna whisk them together to form 1 leche, and then we're gonna add them to our pastel. So I'm gonna come in with my sweetened condensed, tap the whisk and get all that milk, tap the whisk to make sure we get all of that sweetness. Then I'm gonna come in with evaporated milk, And then I'm gonna hit it with a little bit of heavy cream. So I wanna whisk these because the sweetened condensed milk is a little thicker, so we're gonna make it a little thinner with the addition of the 2 milks. So we're gonna whisk, whisk, and right away the sweetened condensed milk will thin out and it'll form a beautifully rich, very sweet milk mixture that we're going to add to the cake, and it's gonna soak up all of those leches. Now I'm gonna show you how to prepare the cake to add the tres leches. Oh, this is super easy. Be careful, your pan is still slightly warm. We're gonna start from one end and we're gonna go to the next end, and we're just gonna poke. Also, if you have kids, this is their favorite part. My daughters loved doing this part. So we're just poking holes, and this is where our tres leches will start to soak into our cake. And I'm gonna use a ladle, and I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna start to ladle the tres leches over the warm pastel. Remember, we poked those holes in, and you'll start to see that the tres leches will start soaking into the cake. Just gonna do it little by little. We don't wanna overwhelm her since we took such time and patience to make her light and fluffy. As you can see, the cake is absorbing all those leches, and we're just gonna keep slowly adding ladle after ladle. What I love about a tres leches is it's so different than a traditional cake where you have the pastel with maybe like the cream cheese frosting. This is more of a denser cake, more of a comfort cake. And I grew up, I don't know, I can't even tell you how many pieces of tres leches I have enjoyed over the years, but my abuelita made it, my tias made it, my abuelito in Matamoros was his favorite cake, so we always had it for his birthday. One last ladle, just actually gonna go in there with the bowl. And you can see it's already soaked up pretty much all the tres leches. We're gonna cover her with plastic film. We're gonna tuck her away in the fridge, and we're gonna let her do her thing. We're gonna let her chill. We're gonna let her soak in all that milky goodness while we prepare the topping. So we have our whipped topping. We have our blueberries, which have been sitting in lime juice and a little bit of sugar. And as you can tell, it has drawn out all the juices of the blackberries. The blackberries have become a little softer. And we also have our pecans. Now I'm gonna show you how to top your pastel. So the pastel has been chilling in the fridge. It has soaked in all those leches. So we're gonna start with adding our whipped topping. Just gonna go in here, start spreading it over the entire surface of the cake. Super fluffy, so you're gonna get that dense leche pastel flavor. You're gonna also taste the nice fluffy crema over it. Then you're gonna get a little bit of that fruit from the blackberries and a little bit of crunch from the pecans. Got the whipped topping. I'm gonna start spreading it over the pastel, and we're gonna rotate the pan. Come in here and we're gonna spread it evenly over the entire pastel. It's fluffy, it's got that beautiful white color. We're gonna come in with our blackberries, and we're gonna start adding them over this white. How beautiful. Just gonna spoon it over. We're gonna get all those juices from the lime juice and the sugar. We have those plump blackberries. Okay, just a little bit more. We want to cover the entire surface. From our pecans, we're going to come in and we're just going to sprinkle it over the entire pastel. So we have the tres leches, we have the whipped topping, we have the juicy fruit, and then we have a little crunch from the pecans. And there you have it, guys, a homemade blackberry pecan tres leches. This recipe takes some time, it takes some patience, but at the end, it's worth it. Your family will enjoy it. You'll get some alone time in the kitchen, and you'll try a new recipe. So I hope you give it a try. If you like what you're seeing, be sure to like and subscribe for more Tex-Mex